Once we enter examination, there's going to be some execution costs, probably around $5,000 every 4 to 6 months. And then there are maintenance fees after these things get allowed, 3.5, 7.5, and 11.5 years after issuance. These AI patents are really catching on. This graph over here I took from Axios, obviously, showing that Google has filed 148 patent applications on AI in 1 year. That is quite a bit. That is more than I've written this year. That is, I don't know, over 10 per month. So that's quite a bit. What parts of AI technology can be covered by patents? The inputs can, machinery can, and the outputs. So pretty much every part of this technology can be covered by patents. What specific AI issues should you look out for? AI itself cannot be an inventor. And that kind of image on the left. Image on the left is from Stephen Thaler. It is essentially a fractal cup perimeter. He had his artificial intelligence called Dabus file a patent application on this thing. And all the way up to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that you can't get a patent on this because artificial intelligence cannot be listed as an inventor. Anything that is created solely by AI is straight into the public domain. This poses an issue for biotechnology companies specifically. Happen, and it's probably going to happen in the next decade or so, of a company using artificial intelligence for drug discovery or drug target discovery. Have the AI essentially come up with every aspect of whatever their target is or whatever their most likely it's going to be a small molecule. And they're going to sue their competitor. They're going to sue someone, and they're going to lose their patent because the AI essentially invented this compound whole cloth. So if you guys are using AI to sort of generate inventions or generate IP, you're going to want to talk to an IP attorney to make sure that you're doing it correctly, because AI-assisted inventions are allowed. What does that mean? Essentially you need to put the human in the loop. The human needs to be doing some type of modification, some type of change, or we need to incorporate what the human has done into the patent's claims. So AI assisted, good. Fully generated by AI, bad. One of the big issues for AI applications that I get into is that the technology must solve a technical problem in the AI space or in the software space. A lot of times I will be dealing with business people who really want to use their artificial intelligence for business purposes. Patent office doesn't like that. That's called a business method. Those things will get rejected pretty quickly, and it just increases the costs and lowers the chance of you getting a patent. Also, I want to say, if anyone has any questions, you guys are free to raise your hand, interrupt me. Happy to answer whatever you guys might want to ask. A little bit more on patents for AI companies. Patent strategies, so filing strategies for patents can vary depending on the goals of the client. Bespoke strategies are easy to craft and implement. You guys are looking for a marketing perspective. Filing a patent application allows you to use patent pending, file multiple patent applications, which is pretty easy to do and can be done for a low cost. You are allowed to say that you have patents pending. My experience, VCs specifically like to see this quite a bit. So if you guys are chasing after VC money, I want to get more than one patent on file. I say that these filing strategies can be very bespoke, can, go after what you guys have as a goal for your business. What I mean by that is, we can sort of, I don't want to say move money around, but we can spend more money on the beginning or at the beginning, or we can spend less money at the beginning, push money off until you guys are converting from a non-provisional or from a provisional application to a non-provisional. So if you're talking with patent attorneys or you're talking with IP attorneys and they're telling you, this fee, $10,000 patent application, there are other ways to do that. And I encourage you guys to sort of figure out what works best for your business. Copyrights for AI companies. What is a copyright? The exclusive right to copy, modify, distribute, publicly display, or publicly perform an original work of authorship. What is eligible for copyright protection? Generally anything. Anything that's written down, anything that is fixed in a tangible medium is eligible for copyright registration as soon as it is fixed. one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about and make sure you understand the difference here is that copyright only protects the form of the expression, not the actual expression itself. So if I write Romeo and Juliet, I have a copyright on the actual text that I wrote down and saved, as opposed to copyright on the story of two star-crossed lovers who are in opposing families. That would not be covered by the copyright. That is more of the idea behind Romeo and Juliet, while, you know, if I was Shakespeare, I would own the copyright to Romeo and Juliet, the actual play. On the right here, you have a very interesting graph, or at least from my perspective. It is the source of the tokens for training data for ChatGPT 3, which was the version that sort of blew up the world. Look up at the top, see the number one source of tokens is Google Patents, and then you look down at the bottom and you see that it's a log scale. You really understand how much patent applications have influence on ChatGPT, excuse me. You know, a lot of these things that people are saying are hallmarks of ChatGPT, such as the M dash or the Oxford comma. Those are just things that you see a lot in patent applications. I have found that ChatGPT does a very good job of drafting portions of patent applications. I use it quite a bit to save on costs. An interesting little wrinkle, wondering why ChatGPT uses the M dash quite a bit, is because they oversampled patent applications. Really just a huge source of public domain natural language text. What type of, or what parts of the AI technology can be covered by copyrights? Much like with patents, everything. You know, the outputs can be copyrighted, the inputs can be copyrighted, and the machinery can be copyrighted. A lot of the outputs, though, are circumstance specific. Very complicated analysis. The Copyright Office issued probably a 30-page, essentially, memo or laying out how they're doing AI-assisted analysis, because AI cannot be an author. You know, much like AI cannot be an inventor, AI cannot be an author of a work. The same academic, Dr. Thaler, had the same artificial intelligence, Dabus, sort of create this image on the left here. It is called an entrance to paradise. And again, they took this all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, cannot have an AI authored work. So every single piece of copyrightable or potentially copyrightable works that are created by AI are in the public domain. This can pose an issue for biotechnology companies. I know a lot of you guys are using artificial intelligence to interpret your results, model your proteins, whatever you guys are working on with disease states and predictions. Any type of output from that without your further massaging, you don't really have any intellectual property in. That can cause an issue if you have, you know, an employee walk away with all your data. It's not copyrighted. You know, that's a big risk for your company, and it's a big hit to your bottom line sometimes if they decide to go start a competitor. So I'm going to get into this more in a little bit, but, you know, what I recommend for my clients is take that data, protect it as a trade secret. At the very least, you can keep your employees from walking off with it. Like I said, what constitutes AI assisted? The Copyright Office issued a 20-page memo. It's really complicated. So if you guys are trying to sort of finesse this, I have an AI generating a bunch of text, but I want IP protection on it. It's all with a intellectual property attorney that knows what they're doing. Trade secrets for AI companies. What is a trade secret? Trade secret is the right to prevent theft. Like I said, I cannot emphasize this enough. It is just the right to prevent theft of anything used in the business that gives a competitive advantage. But that is different from a patent, which allows you to exclude anyone. Trade secret, like I said, generally just protects your employees, or protects you from having your employees essentially run off with your trade secret, whatever it may be. Qualifies as a trade secret. Anything that is not generally known, subject to reasonable efforts to protect its secrecy. Reasonable efforts normally mean some type of access restriction. You know, either that or a list of authorized persons, maybe a lock on the door. All these things I've seen sort of cited by courts as reasonable efforts to protect a trade secret. Parts of AI technology can be covered by trade secrets. Inputs, machinery, and outputs can all be held as a trade secret. Like I said, one of the main ways we're using it right now is to sort of protect these uncopyrightable or unpatentable outputs from machine learning. Trademarks for AI companies. What is a trademark? Trademark is the right to control or exclude others from using something that identifies a source of goods or service. Trademark rights really hinge on, whether you guys have trademark rights or not, really hinge on whether consumers see your mark as indicating, the source of the goods or services that you have. So if you have a drug out in the marketplace, let's go with Wegovy. When you see the name Wegovy, you know that it is GlaxoSmithKline that does Wegovy. Don't worry about it. You know that whoever is creating these weight loss drugs are it's a source. It is showing the high quality of the drugs that you're getting. So it's good for B2C companies. If you guys are marketing to, as customers would be patients or doctors. Less useful for B2B companies. So if you guys are selling business services to another biotech company, you can normally hold off on getting a trademark registration until your incoming work, your new incoming work, is based upon the reputation of the company instead of just your relationships with whatever business that you're. How should trademark costs? Pretty cheap, in the scope of intellectual property rights. $1,500 for filing an application. You might have $1,500 to $3,000 in costs if we need to go back and forth with the trademark office. Normally, whether or not we need to go back and forth can be telegraphed before we file the application, which is great for planning purposes. And then every 5 years you have to renew, which is probably around $700. What parts of AI technology can be covered by trademarks? All of them, much like patents and copyrights. Essentially, as long as you're offering a good or service, it can be protected by a trademark. If you have a proprietary set of training data, that could be an input that would be covered. You have a proprietary set, or not even proprietary, but a well-known algorithm, that can be covered by a trademark. And then if for some reason your predictions become famous and are tied to you, then we can get a trademark on the outputs as well. One of the things that I've noticed lately is that the AI industry is starting to clog up the trademark register. We're starting to get people butting heads about whether, GPT, which is a type of AI algorithm, whether that is trademarkable. All the big players are sort of involved in their own type of trademark litigation right now. It's very interesting to watch, but things are becoming crowded. Name, image, likeness. I think this is less applicable for this group, but I'm going to go over it very quickly anyway. What are NIL rights? It's the right of an individual to control and commercial use of their name, image, and likeness, also referred to as the right of publicity. But the inputs and the outputs from an AI system can violate NIL rights. On the right here, we just have two examples. Right when ChatGPT got really cool and started doing videos, people on TikTok created Harry Potter by Balenciaga, which is really just an NIL mess. Is Daniel Radcliffe part of Balenciaga? Those of you who don't know, Balenciaga is a fashion house who is famous for sort of dressing their supermodels up in trash bags and having them trounce through oil and other things. That was a very weird crossover. It creates NIL issues because not only are you producing Daniel Radcliffe's face, but you're sort of tying him with this video into Balenciaga. I don't think either brand really wants that. It really caused any issues, but it was a very strange meme that was present on the internet for a while. And on the bottom, I have a picture of Scarlett Johansson. This is a sort of weird NIL issue, and I'll go through it really quickly. One of the things that NIL has been extended to over the past year is voice cloning. There are a lot of these AI companies who are doing voice clones of celebrities and stuff like that. OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT, sort of, I don't want to say stole Scarlett Johansson's voice, but she was the voice of an AI assistant in a movie. And what they did was they went out and they found someone who had a voice that sounded very similar to Scarlett Johansson, hired her to be the voice of ChatGPT. Caused a big hullabaloo in the press. It sort of presents a weird legal issue of whether celebrities' NIL rights sort of extend over all of us. You know, if I am a voice actor and I am a young voice actor, is it right that I can't do my job because someone has a voice that sounds similar to me who is more famous? Topic for a different time, but an interesting thought experiment. Timing of filings. So this is a nice slide for you guys as CEOs. You know, when do you need to file your IP to make sure you don't miss it? For patents, it is the most pertinent. You know, a patent application has to be filed within 1 year of any public disclosure, public use, sale, offer for sale, or reduction to practice of the invention. Doesn't mean that there isn't wiggle room. Which with everything in the law, there are wrinkles where we can sort of bring you in through a back door. One of the big ones for you guys is going to be experimentation. If you're still performing tests, you're still trying to figure out if your invention works. That is not a public use or a public disclosure if it sort of makes it out there. It's just one of the many wrinkles that we can find. Copyrights. Copyright is generated as soon as the work is fixed. That's different from a copyright registration, which is essentially federal government saying that you have a copyright on this very specific thing. Registration generally is not needed unless you need to sue someone. A few companies who are e-commerce retailers at the moment who are using copyrights to sort of file copyright strikes online and get products taken down. Or essentially, you know, someone else has found the factory in China that makes whatever product they've come up with, is now importing it and selling it. So it's a good back door to sort of get people taken off the internet. But I think less applicable to this group since you guys are really into heavy biotech stuff. Trademarks. Trademark rights begin as soon as the mark is used in commerce. Trademark application can be filed as soon as you have the intent to use the mark, which oftentimes is before first use. For trade secrets, you want to identify them, document them, so you need to create essentially a definition of what is in your trade secret, and then you need to lock them down with whatever access restrictions you have, you know, essentially as soon as they're assembled, as soon as they're compiled into whatever form they're going to be protected. Yeah. IP ownership. The original creator of the IP is generally the owner for copyrights, patents, trade secrets, and name, image, likeness rights. This would be considered the author, the inventor, or the creator. Ownership of intellectual property can be changed using an assignment agreement or a work for hire agreement, only for copyrights though. Normally, my perspective, we insert these into employment agreements as the employee is onboarded just to make sure that the company owns all the intellectual property that the employee is going to be creating. Trademarks, the first user is generally the owner of trademarks. That can little wrinkly and weird sometimes. A lot of times when courts will sort of take a senior user, so someone who's been using a mark for longer, but a more famous and younger user will come around. We'll have to sort of curtail the older users' rights because they're not essentially famous enough. Yeah. This one? Yeah. Okay. There are a few legal tests for who is an inventor, who is an author. Patents, you know, the key question is whether the individual conceived in the invention. Here's a big, like, legal definition of what conception is. Essentially, conception is if someone solved a problem. You know, they don't have to identify the problem, but they need to be the one who came up with the solution to the problem. This is different from someone who maybe just implements a solution that was thought up by someone else, that was conceived by someone else. This is easy in the wet lab sort of circumstance. If you have maybe a PI doing all the problem solving, coming up with all the solutions, and then directing their lab staff to sort of implement the solutions. PI would be the inventor. Lab staff would not be considered an inventor unless they came up with another problem while implementing what the PI told them to do. And then they would be considered an inventor for that problem that they solved. So you can really get into a shell game here, trying to figure out who's an inventor or not. It can be a little complicated. Yes?
But still, let's say you're using AI, right? You explain a problem to AI, and AI generates a solution, right? And specifically interested, this is not your AI agent, publicly available AI agent. Where does that IP line?
you're just saying something to an AI and they're spitting out the solution, there probably isn't any protectable IP there, unless you want to hold the output as a trade secret. You know, from that fact pattern, you're not doing anything after the fact to what the AI is telling you. So the solution would essentially be generated by the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So let's say this. Give me an RNA therapeutic. Give me a sequence for an RNA therapeutic that would be effective, and it spits out something where I guess that probes a little bit more. That is the actual solution.
Yeah. That's a very good example because it's easy to deal with. The RNA sequence that was created by the artificial intelligence, if you're using it as a probe, I'm guessing, that would not be protectable. From my perspective, what I would do is I would tell you, take this sequence, attach a head or a tail to it. Yeah. Do something to it to make it different than what is spat out by the artificial intelligence.
So OpenAI wouldn't have any claims to.
There would be no claim for what ChatGPT generates. The RNA sequence would be in the public domain specifically. And Miss, you had a question?
No, I was just going to talk about doing something after.
Exactly. A lot of it doesn't even have to be something as molecular as adding a head or a tail to the RNA. It could be we're gonna make this RNA be at a specific pH. We're gonna buffer it, and that's gonna be our contribution. It could be something that simple. It's a very easy problem to get around. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of off that example, wouldn't there be risk there if someone could get the same sequence with the same content, just a different target?
Yeah, exactly. You would have narrower protection, and if you came up with the probe sequence all on your own, it would have to be the probe sequence plus something else instead of just the sequence. Any other questions? It's your time to get free, almost legal advice.
I don't mean to be cynical, but I have to ask this question. How would anybody know or prove that AI was the author?
The discovery process in a lawsuit. Essentially what happens, if you guys aren't familiar with discovery, as soon as you initiate a lawsuit against someone, they essentially get to have the court force you to disclose whatever they want. They'll go through all of your emails, they'll request files from OpenAI and see what your history looks like. It used to be first-year associates that did all this work, and I'm guessing that it's going to be an AI agent in the next 10 to 20 years to do it.
Discovery, though, on another issue in which the authorship of the patent came into question as part of diligence, as opposed to the reason for the lawsuit.
Normally what happens, the fact pattern that is the most common, is either it comes out during due diligence, which, due diligence during a sale or a purchase. You don't get discovery then, but you also are telling whoever's buying or selling that what you're saying is true. You take reps and warranties saying that, we own all this IP, we are the true inventors, and there are no other issues. So that could come back to bite you during an M&A type of situation. There's also, someone sues someone for a patent. Let's say someone's taking your probe and they're using it, and you sue them. Discovery would start then. As soon as the lawsuit really gets going. I don't want to say right when the lawsuit starts, maybe 6 months to a year in, but they will find it. Yes, sir.
Thanks, but what would be the difference between using the AI to read out a sequence or using a modeling software to look at a peptide at the surface and decide that I'm going to use this now as a drug that I'm going to build? I use the modeling software just like I would use the AI. Or I will patent this peptide. Why would I not patent this? I mean, the tool is here to help me figure out something that might be useful, and I show the usefulness of what the tool spit out.
Sure. I mean, it's a good argument. Using AI as a tool is what I would call AI assisted. So one of the issues with the cases that have gone up so far on AI authorship and AI inventorship is that they were designed to be very simple. They're not messy. There aren't all of these confounding facts. It's just, even Thaler went up there, he said, no, Dobbs made every single decision and outputted this design for a fractal cup, and Dobbs wants to get a patent on it. What you told me, it seems like you are using the modeling tools to either discover or generate these peptides as is a tool, like you said. But you are controlling the tool. You are kind of telling the tool what parts you want to model, I'm guessing. I'm not super familiar with these peptide modeling things. I haven't played around with them since undergrad, which was quite a bit ago. Yeah. That's different from an artificial intelligence where you just, here's a sequence. Sequence and a matching sequence would be trivial. But, here's a sequence, here's a peptide sequence. I want 30 RNAs that target this moiety, or something like that. That would be closer to what Stephen Thaler did, as opposed to, sequence that was outputted, and then we're going to change the sequence a little bit, or we're going to add these modifications to it, or we're going to pH it so that it's more, potent is the wrong word, but it's better binding activities and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's messy.
I'm still kind of confused because now I use a AI tool to build molecules in acid site that I come up with a molecule that has activity same model. Is this story going to go back to the use of the
It could, stuff like that hasn't been brought to the courts yet, I think is the problem. We're kind of only left with the rules that have been created so far, and right now it's very black and white. AI cannot be an author. Anything that is wholly generated, or AI cannot be an inventor. Anything that is wholly generated by an AI is not patent protectable, is not copyrightable. Part of the issue is that just the time that we're in right now makes it so those answers from the courts aren't really out there. I'm certain in the next 5 to 10 years we will get more light on this. I kept telling you guys about that huge memo that the Copyright Office issued about AI-assisted copyright or AI-assisted works. They spent a good 30 pages talking about that exact issue, but with copyrights and not patents. So people are out there thinking about it. There just hasn't been a lawsuit that went up to the Supreme Court about it yet.
So I have two questions. So first, if you're developing kind of like novel AI algorithms, what's your advice on making a decision of what parts to patent versus copyright versus keep trade secret?
I would patent as much as you can that your budget allows. That would be my recommendation. Copyrights, trade secrets, really narrow. You're really looking to build a moat around your business. Patents are the way to go. They are also the most expensive, and I'm not going to lie to you guys about that. Patent application is, over the lifetime is over $10,000, which is a big hit to y'all's business. There is a chance that at the end of examination, you don't have the best claim scope, so it is a risk.
What's your thought? Because something that we've talked about with our IP attorneys is that patenting does put it in the public domain. Do you see any risk with that, of keeping some stuff secret?
Depends on what the goals for the business are, honestly. If you are very patent adverse, you really, really, really don't want these things in the public domain, and you really believe that keeping them secret is the way to build your moat, then I am not going to be the one to sort of convince you otherwise. I don't know the ins and outs of your business, and I sort of defer, especially to leadership, on what their strategy is. The thing I can do is sort of just advise you guys and let you guys make your own decisions based on my advice. So from an IP perspective, patents are, the crown of IP. They give you the broadest rights. They have the biggest upside, and they sell for the most. Like I said, if you are worried about someone just stealing your algorithm, then you want to keep it secret,
Then my other question was, how does ownership of training data play a role in who ends up owning any IP or not?
It does not. Yeah, it does not at all, strangely enough. There are a lot of lawsuits out there right now about whether it is copyright infringement to train any type of artificial intelligence or any type of machine learning on publicly available data. That stuff's all still working its way through the courts.
Thanks.
Problem.
I definitely wanted to follow up on those questions because we address the same issues all the time, and online it's very challenging because it's not that somebody's going to steal your exact algorithm, but there's always ways to get to tweak the algorithm. So have you seen algorithm patents that have they been defended? Are they really defensible?
Yeah. I mean, they are very defensible. A lot of software patents are very easy to design around, though. You know, I just went through this whole exercise with one of my cryptocurrency clients who needed to design around a patent. So it's definitely doable. It all depends on, you know, from your perspective, how innovative do you really think your algorithm is? You know, how broad of patent claims are we going to be able to get on it? I can sort of advise you guys on that, but I don't know the nitty gritty. Any other questions, guys? I have more content if you want to see it. Working with academics? Anyone here working with an academic? Yeah, I knew you guys would be. This can be hard. Here's what's going on. Academics, especially university academics in California specifically, have very, very, very aggressive IP assignment provisions in their employment contracts. This can lead the university. Stanford is very bad about this, I will say. Having an ownership share in any resulting IP that is created from the work of that academic. This is very, very common in many advanced technologies, and I would throw in all of the biotech industry into that bucket. It's starting to come up more and more for artificial intelligence companies specifically, because a lot of these more advanced algorithms are starting to sort of all their way out of academia and into the marketplace. But the good news is that as your company matures and brings development fully in-house, IP ownership kind of shifts. You know, a lot of when I'm dealing with my tech transfer clients or clients who are spin-outs out of universities, my main goal is to work with them and get, you know, whatever patent they're licensing. Normally it's a patent, sometimes it's a copyright. Whatever patent they're licensing, I try and get essentially another patent on whatever advancement they've made. You know, and I try and do that quickly, and I try and do it efficiently so that you guys can get some IP that is only yours and won't have any of these academics listed as an inventor. At the same time, a lot of these employment agreements from university faculty can have holes in them. So I always recommend that you sort of take a look at the specific IP policy or the specific terms of the contractor agreement, the consulting agreement that you have on file, just to sort of determine whether there are any workarounds that we can find. As far as mitigating IP ownership by academics, it's hard. We just went over the authorship test and the inventorship test. You can somehow prevent the academic from becoming an inventor or an author. That's the best way to do it, but that can be very difficult. You can use a consulting agreement that defines the relationship specifically, but that can just also lead to, you know, dueling agreements. You have this PhD's employment agreement saying that everything he creates within a technology space is owned by the university. You have an agreement saying that, hey, all of this is owned by a company, my company. Yeah, exactly. You know, you kind of, it's just like whose contract is going to win out in the end. So not exactly the best strategy, but one you can use. You can also pitch the academic on leaving their cushy tenure track job to join your startup. I'm sure that has a lot of success. But working with academics is tough. You know, I very much empathize with you guys because you are in the industry where it's affected the most. But my main strategy is to sort of break you guys off from the academic as quickly as possible, which isn't always possible, you know, because a lot of times they are driving force behind the innovation. And when we can't do that, we try and use other methods that, I'll be real with you, aren't as good. It is a persistent problem.
Tony, you have a scheduling problem. Can it be, have you presented the last two slides in about a half hour?
Sure.
Are you able to hang around?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got our friend Michael has to go in just a short time, and I want to listen. But, I think you got a lot more to say than.
So I'll bring you back up and just finish. Thanks. Sorry about that. We So Michael, if you're still there, I'm going to try to switch over and get your slides up. Will that work for you, sir? See you there? David, you can.
You have to find his deck. I don't.
I think he wanted to
present. Michael, go ahead. You can present. Bring up your slides and go ahead and take control of this. Yeah. It's all about having control. Oh. We've turned off Tony, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he can do it. If you if you bring up your slides.
The share button down in the middle. Okay. So what do you see?
No, that was right. Okay. You think, man? How you guys so far?
Not qualified to do this, but I will use my ears and reading and sign actually seminars, learn language.
Michael, can you see the screen? Okay. Wait, just tell me when to advance the slide. Okay. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Michael. Question, hold on. Shab.
Thank you for that presentation. On that very last point about the SBIR program potentially sunsetting if it's not refunded, what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen? Or do you have any brochures or materials, kind of the data that are summarized that we can then take to our congresswomen's office? So what can we do?
Yeah, so I'm a Biocom board member, and I will get that information from Tim Scott and from Jimmy Jackson, who's head of policy. And we'll be also getting Scott Peters, our local representative, who is driving a lot of that stuff in Washington. So let me get that all to you, because it's important to get that date and to be a loud voice and be an advocate, okay? Thank you, Michael. Anyone else? Questions for Michael? And thank you for the shout out for Michael. He wanted to say thank you to you.
Thank you, Michael.
Sorry, Dave,
Yes, here you go. You got it.
So for the concept award, do you need any affiliation with university or you can just apply as a company?
Michael, did you hear?
So sorry, thanks for the great presentation. For the concept award, do you need any affiliation with university or you can just apply as a company?
Anyone else? We have one more question from Pilgrim Jackson.
Mike, thanks a lot for the presentation. Mine's getting very technical. The little sliver that was diagnostics for the SBIR, kind of curious how many people have done diagnostics as a fast track or it's a combination, and how many see separated out as a phase 1 and then a phase 2 for the clinical piece of a diagnostic, and getting your loose recommendation on it. We won't hold you to it.
Michael, John Foley here. Can I share your deck with the group? Okay.
Excellent. Excelente. Is it also a part of the Biocom California Impact Report? Okay. It might be a separate report with Deloitte or E&Y or something like that. Okay. All right. There's no other questions. We're going to see you on the 27th.
Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. Hey. Hey, keep the beltway in one piece, will you please? Oh my God. Good luck with that. Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. Can we take 5 minutes, and we're going to bring up young Tony back up? Let's take 5 minutes.
You're doing awesome. Very soon, very quickly. I'm excited for you.
On my plate. Check.
We're not even there yet. When you John asked I'm not even there yet. So yeah, but we're trying. Have you been able to connect with any more startups? Yeah, so I'm talking Make your immune cells smart.
How was your bio meeting? I saw you just in passing.
Yeah, no,
it was it's crazy, right?
It was busy.
Yeah, it was. I bet it was. Yeah.
Sunday through Thursday.
Right.
So you too?
Yeah, exactly. So how is this? Is it Sarepta? Yeah, were you just asking about that there? Yeah, I was just curious if that was having any.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But I know the CEO very well. Because they're going to cut and paste everything from them to every other.
Right, exactly. Where we were just talking about, on the positive side, it's showing, Duchenne isn't solved. Some investors were like,
that's a nice way to look
everybody,
at it.
And it's like, well, we just proved the other hand, what is it in general? But so far, I'm like around that
Yeah.
I think this is going to tank everything. So I don't think it's totally shifted that way, but that's kind of like the balance that is still, hard to play out. And then we were just talking about with FDA, like flip-flopping on Prasad coming in and out, like, what is that going to say to the gene therapy field? So hard to say, but I think there's some possibilities coming in.
I mean, so do they understand mechanistically? Because I don't know all the details. Was behind it? Is it something really unique to their approach?
I think nothing's been proven.
Yeah.
But what the field kind of believes is that they've never been able to treat older patients. They've only treated a small handful of older patients in that first trial, and FDA gave them accelerated approval for it, and so then they opened it up. And in other diseases where, muscle diseases where there's been underlying liver conditions, that's led to death. So FTM, a whole bunch of patients died because they had liver cholestasis that wasn't known. They got AAV that exacerbated their disease. And so what people think in Duchenne is that the older patients have more of a liver disease issue, either from long-term corticosteroids or just chronic disease, chronic supplements, that is the problem case. Like when you have an underlying liver problem that are giving AAV without strong suppression, you're going to have liver tox. So that's kind of like how the community thinks about it, and that decision to grant accelerated approval for non-ambulatory not having really proved it out in patients to be more independent. So no one's proven that. That's kind of the theory, but it makes sense that that's probably why.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
That's why they keep seeing it in older patients only, and not, the liver-related deaths in younger patients.
In the younger patients, they still have intact function. They've not been pre-treated as much, and that's probably the group that you want to try to go after anyway, right?
I mean, we've always said that, we have to go in when we have intact muscle. We can't fix dystrophin in muscle that's not there. There's no point. So we've always wanted to go into younger patients.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad in the community. You have all these old non-ambulant patients who are feeling left out from these treatments, but just mechanistically, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no. Well, that's good. Well, I thought about you when I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, that can't be a good thing from a business perspective.
Crazy. And I mean, honestly, Sarepta didn't handle it very well, so I think that
was
takes
what
a lot of faith in the company.
That was the thing. That was the other thing. I'm like, could they have done any worse?
Oh my gosh.
With the messaging?
I
was like, why would you say that and do that? And why would you act like
right, exactly.
They were kind of nothing. No, there's nothing wrong.
And then we're not going to listen to FDA. We're listening to FDA. It was just really bad.
No, it was terrible. So, well, hopefully that.
Exactly. Corporate social is where it's at.
Because I remember the very early gene therapy trials were kind of plagued with the same issue, right? They had a couple of deaths in the first try, and then it just tanked the whole field forever, right? And so, well, hopefully they're able to take it with a grain of salt.
I think it's going to present the lowest rate of malpractice risk.
It's the patients that you have, all the advocacy. They freak out. Yeah, that would be a tough board meeting or investor meeting, because they're going to freak out. Especially in this investment environment where people just are kind of on the fence about everything. That's why when I was like, oh.
Exactly.
Well, I had to ask. You're the one unique person I know, so. But just, generally for the gene therapy field, I'm sure it's going to impact everything. I mean, for us, I worked in diagnostics before I started doing this, and the whole Theranos thing, that was a disaster for diagnosis. I would get that question all the time, all these skeptical, oh, really? You're going to do that many tests with a drop of, I'm like, no, we're not. No, forget that. We're not. We're only going to do 5. But yeah, it was And for a few years, we got that kind of feedback from investors. Just like, they're just not even skepticism, just pure cynicism. Just like they don't care what you say. They're just we'll get well, hopefully. And and hopefully it was something really specific to their therapy. It's so hard to know.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to have Tony finish up. Welcome back, everybody. I'm trying to speak loudly. We're going to have Tony finish up his presentation, and since there was some more conversation happen, so I'm sure there's more Q&A. So I turn it back to you.
Guys, I went back to this slide just because I was getting a lot of questions on it. Wanted to make sure that no one had anything outstanding they wanted to ask or talk about. Yes.
What's not specifics of this slide necessarily, but I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to how applicable or relevant preliminary patents are in like the bio and AI space.
Sure. I think what you mean by preliminary patent is a provisional patent. That's okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Language matters because if I say the wrong thing, I get sued for malpractice. Oh, we had freedom of speech in this country. But no. Okay. Provisional patents are very applicable. So if you have the vast majority of times I see a provisional patent filed for a biotechnology company is when you have a lot of candidates for whatever you're working on. If you have 300 small molecules that you're screening, or you have like 30 proteins that you're screening or something like that for whatever activity or function that you want to do. In those situations, the company will file a provisional application that discloses everything, just to sort of cover all their bases. And then in a year, maybe in that year they're going to do a lot of marketing, they're going to do another capital raise, or they're going to do further development. In a year, when we convert from a provisional application to a non-provisional application, we can use that additional funding that you've gotten and also incorporate some of the advancements that you've had. So if in one of those situations you're the company that filed 300 small molecules, you maybe select the 10 or 20 that show the most promise in lab or in whatever phase study you're in right now. Make sure that those go into the patent application because they're your most prominent candidates, for lack of a better term. The provisionals generally give you a year to do an additional capital raise, figure out whether you even want to pursue a patent application or continue developing. And then if you're still developing after the year and you have a provisional on file, you can file a second provisional that sort of updates it, starts the 1-year time clock again. You can essentially serially do that until you've come to a point where you want to proceed. One of the key examples is, this is weird, Walmart came up with some type of technology enhanced grocery cart. They filed like 10 provisional applications over the decade as they were refining this thing. And then they took the last provisional application, they took that into a non-provisional and eventually took it through the patent office. Problem.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got 2 slides left. Happy to talk to you guys about IP strategy as well, or answer any questions that you might have. Working with academics, it's tough. You guys are really between a rock and a hard place. The university has all the power in this relationship, and I empathize with that. I have some universities that are clients, and it's fun when you're on their side, but I also have a lot of startups that are clients, and it's not fun when you're on the startup side. The most common strategy that people use are just to wait it out. They will give the university an ownership share in their IP. Like I said, they will, as fast as possible, ice the university out by filing more things on stuff that they developed that sort of exclude the academic. Generally, no one wants to leave their tenure track job to join a very risky startup. Love y'all and what you do, but it's not a good career move for some PhD doctorate in their 50s.
Have you seen some horror stories with university patents that linger?
Yes, I can't talk about any of the specifics.
Tell you 20 of them.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys aren't bound by attorney rules, so I'm guessing you guys have better stories than I have that you can talk about. The worst one that I had was we had a consulting agreement versus a university's employment agreement. I moved firms before that case settled. It could still be going on. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. But it really is, when you have dueling, essentially contracts, it really is a knockout, drag-out fight between, you know, the university's legal department and whoever you guys have hired. Very expensive proposition on that one. Independent contractor is much easier than academics because you guys have more power. A lot of the independent contractors that I deal with are on the software side, are often overseas and can easily become inventors or authors. You really want to do with independent contractors is use your own agreement. Don't use their agreement. That's the, you know, their agreement is obviously going to be biased toward them. But you want to use your own independent contractor agreement to control who owns what, as well as to control sort of what they do for you. Some of the main things that I put in mind, you want an IP assignment clause. That includes a past assignment if they've done work for you previously and you didn't have one in place, and also a future assignment for any future work that they do. We have a work for hire clause. A work for hire clause is a specific clause for copyright that deems the company the author of the work. It's very beneficial because, you know, it allows you to, first off, you have this copyright for like 150 years, some ridiculous amount that probably needs to be dialed back. And then you are also the owner, so you don't have to deal with our step-in rights for authors. So I think it's something like, you're an author and you've licensed your work for so many years, you can essentially come in and cancel all of your licenses without recourse and reclaim your rights. Work for hire agreement prevents that from happening. There are a lot of other employment-specific clauses that I don't deal with that go into these independent contractor agreements as well. I work pretty hand in glove with employment counsel to draft these things, so it really is a team effort. Another strategy you can use with foreign independent contractors is to gain intellectual property in their home country. Normally, this is a patent application. It can also be a copyright or a trademark. Nothing can kill your market overseas faster than, you know, a competitor who's domestic in that country. They're cutting your production costs.
Does anyone not use this?
Yeah. I cannot recommend enough an independent contractor agreement.
Those pretty standard?
Very standard.
Yeah.
Non-disclosure agreements. What is a non-disclosure agreement? A contract or a portion of a contract establishes a confidential relationship between two or more parties. It also outlines what needs to be kept secret. Very useful for business transactions, funding, sale. If you're trying to bring on a new employee and you kind of want to share your secret sauce with them before they jump on, maybe it's that academic that you're pitching. You can use a non-disclosure agreement to sort of keep them from talking about what you've been working on. One of the issues with NDAs, and this is also an issue with universities and larger companies, is that, you know, if you're a larger company dealing with a smaller company, you know that you have all the power and you're not going to budge on your NDA. A lot of times when I'm dealing with these, I will try to change portions of it, something like choice of law, what is covered by the NDA, and I always get pushback. It is very hard to get a Fortune 500 company or a world-renowned academic institution to sort of back off their stock NDA. One of the places where we can sort of dig in is the purpose. Sort of what is the purpose of this NDA? What are we discussing? What is covered by the NDA and what is not covered? Those are generally where you have the ability to push back or make changes. That is because in every single stock NDA that exists, the purpose is left blank. It's kind of written by the lawyer bespokely for every single transaction it's used on. That is generally the most productive place for me to dig in and try and make changes that benefit the company.
What about non-diversion agreements?
Instead of
NDAs,
where parties get to keep their own secret, well.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of those. Mostly what I see in that type of situation is a two-way NDA where both parties are sort of bound by the NDA. There's a one-way and a two-way. One way is, you know, my startup is disclosing to maybe a potential funder what we're working on. Two-way NDA is sort of an exchange of information. So maybe you're doing a collaboration with this company or with this academic institution. If you guys need to sort of keep each other's stuff secret. Question? Or?
Yeah, I wanted to ask before, I'm not sure if I listened to what I already asked, but what is known and how well established is confidentiality between ChatGPT and or myself and ChatGPT?
Sure. It's kind of a black box, you know. A lot of the big, well, normally when I'm dealing with ChatGPT licenses, I'm doing it at the enterprise level. So I'll be dealing with a larger company that's sort of contracting with ChatGPT. I always tell them to put confidentiality agreements, clauses, IP assignment clauses, stuff like that into these types of agreements. The larger AI service providers, so ChatGPT, Gemini, all of the big ones that you see in the news, they are normally very amenable to these types of changes. They just want customers. They don't want your data. They got enough of that in 2003, or in 2023, excuse me.
Right, but it doesn't go public in any way?
It doesn't go public, but no one knows where it goes. So it could become public later. Yeah. I mean, where does all the data you put into ChatGPT go? You know, we know it gets plugged back in neural networks sometime back in the when you're in your chat, so that I can remember. Excuse me, I got caught up in neural network for a second. But yeah, no one knows where it goes. I have a strange feeling that, much like the inventor of, you know, a wholly AI generated molecule, you're going to see trade secrets ruined because they were put into ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT incorporated it into its training data and was able to spit it back out. Some of the people in the copyright lawsuits have sort of already gotten it to do that, gotten it to reproduce paywall news articles, which is very interesting to see. So it is possible. Don't put your trade secrets into ChatGPT. That's a no-no from your IP lawyer. Still at risk. You're going to want to look at the license that you signed when you signed up for ChatGPT. IP assignment, IP ownership, data ownership clauses like that are what you're looking for. They're silent to these things. I want to say that makes it better, but it doesn't make it worse. It's kind of just an open question. I would say next time you're re-upping your ChatGPT subscription, talk to whoever your account representative is at OpenAI, if they exist, and sort of see how much you can push back on the licensing terms. Like I said, AI, I mean, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, I'm not trying to steal your clinical data. You know, I'm actually surprised at this. They've really taken the tack that we are offering this AI service. We don't want to steal your technology. We want to offer a good artificial intelligence for your business. That seems to be the position that they're taking in the marketplace. Like I said, they're pretty amenable to working with you guys to protect your intellectual property and your data privacy. Depends on how the license is structured. If the license divides it up model by model, then you need to do a model by model. But I'm guessing that would be, I mean, however many models you're doing, you'd need an individual clause for that. And from a lawyer's perspective, I don't want to write that many things. So I would, if I was Perplexity's lawyers, I would do it on the whole contract basis. I'm guessing that it is one clause in there instead of however many models you're using, a clause for each one. Yes.
I do a lot of these NDAs, the two-way versions, and they're all kind of boilerplate to me. And so I'll be honest, you know, I get them, I'll read through them, but they all look more or less the same. I don't necessarily forward every single one to my lawyer because I feel like I need to pay for that all the time.
Breaking my heart here.
Are there a few things that we should particularly pay attention to as a layperson that when we're looking at these NDAs that we can say, oh, this is not kosher, or this is okay from my company's perspective?
Since this is an IP presentation, I'm going to say a lot of NDAs do not talk about, you know, jointly created intellectual property. So if this collaboration, we're doing a two-way NDA, the collaboration results in any IP, who owns it? You know, that would be one big open question that you need to address. There are also, I've seen these things where the larger company, the one with more negotiating power, reserves rights to disclose information to third parties. Normally it's the government, and they do it under, you know, another NDA that binds the government and that company. That seems a little unfair to me, you know, as a startup, that you're just having all of your data disclosed to, you know, some random third party that you don't really know.
Yeah.
Especially since there's not a great paper trail. If someone just, yeah, exactly. those are the two places where I normally push back. Last time I pushed back on the disclosure to third parties, I got a big fat no. And the last time I pushed back on, joint ownership of IP, I didn't get a no, but I got a we'll deal with this later.
Okay. Yes. How about duration of the CDAs?
Yeah. Duration is weird. A lot of people don't want to be bound by these things for too long because it just creates additional risk for your company. A lot of the larger businesses will try and make these things extend out 5 years, 10 years, indefinitely. Yeah, in perpetuity.
Yeah, I just got a perpetuity one.
I would push back on that one. Generally, I like NDAs to last around 2 years. The negotiating point that we use from your perspective is that hey, 2 years is fine. We can always renegotiate and execute another NDA down the line if this relationship is still going on. We don't want to be responsible, especially in a two-way agreement. Business does not want to be responsible in perpetuity for these, secrets. It's an ongoing risk for your business, and it's a very, very, very easy for you as CEO to maybe get a little mouthy and talk, with other CEOs or maybe in a group setting that is recorded, sort of
verbal diarrhea.
Exactly, and create a legal risk for your company, and that's bad.
So should we have a policy of sending a nice stop the NDA today as we don't have any more relationship?
That would be one way you can take. Generally, like I said, I try to cap these things at 2 years, 3 years if there's a lot. It's like 5 years, 10 years for a duration of an NDA. No one's going to remember this anymore, and all it's going to do is create, like I said, a risk that you accidentally disclose. You're never going to find out if Amgen discloses your trade secret. I hope no one from Amgen is here right now. They will certainly find out if you disclose theirs because they have an army of people like me sort of looking out for this kind of stuff.
Bill German over here.
Yeah, so kind of tying it back to the earlier question about trade secret and that side of things. What do you think about with biomarkers, things that you can't patent, but you do want to discuss in some detail, being super specific in your NDA, and how do you address that? Because then as soon as you send them this to sign, it has the specificity in it.
Yeah. That would be in the purpose. You kind of want to make the purpose as general as possible, instead of being very, very specific. Just to discuss further business relationships or something like that, instead of to discuss the ASPGR5 biomarker, which correlates with this disease state or something like that,
Well, but when it's general, is it very defensible? What I'm saying is these biomarkers might be something of huge value to a client. And so would you use some form of NDA to do that defense? And how would you do it, I guess?
Yeah, you can. There are a lot of sort of, I don't want to say backdoors, but there are wrinkles in the NDA generally that say, if this was already known, then it's not covered by the NDA, or if it was independently discovered by one party, then it's not covered by the NDA. You'd be sort of fighting back against those types of clauses. It seems like a very good use of one, It just, the ability of a larger company to sort of go out and discover these biomarkers on their own makes it a little riskier, if that makes sense. Just to say, you can't patent biomarkers specifically. You can patent ways of using them. You can patent tests, use the biomarkers. So it's a good way to paper around natural law of the biomarker, but not actually claim the biomarker in the patent.
Question over here, and then I think sure.
Alright, going back to the last question, maybe opening up to the whole group, how do you guys manage all your agreements if you can't really afford a very attorney at a stage? Your recommendation as well?
There's software out there that does it for you?
Yeah, but what?
Oh, that's a question for in-house counsel. Sorry, guys. I can get a list of contract management software. I can forward it to you and have it distributed. It's generally not what private attorneys do, so I'm just not experienced enough.
Track of expiration date.
Yes. All that good stuff.
Good. Question.
So I've gotten some NDAs from big companies, that are just, they almost seem like they're non-negotiable because they're already like a PDF with the company's logo, and it's like just click here and sign, right? It's not like send back your comments or anything, right? So when you get an NDA like that, what are your recommendations?
Convert to Word document and then edit. That's a joke. You definitely want to mark it up. Just because it's sent to you in a PDF doesn't mean that you can't mark it up. You know, take it out, mark it up with a pen, take a photo of it, and send it back. You know, that is a very classic legal lawyer strategy of sending a PDF, making it really easy to sign, sort of push through your version of the document, which always benefits you more than the other party. But just because it's in a PDF doesn't mean you can't mark it up. Just because it seems non-negotiable doesn't mean that it's non-negotiable.
Very nice.
So including every country and every region under a PCT for a family of patents gets really expensive really quick, as you know. And it forces, like in our case, some choices about the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves versus the can't do it. I know the answer to this question in terms of what others have told me, but I'm interested in your perspective on where today is the biggest infringement risk coming from.
The classic answer is going to be China, just because they have all the manufacturing in the world. They are actually starting to develop drugs now. I've heard in the past few weeks of larger companies taking their drug development and moving it to essentially factory labs in China, doing it that way. So I'd say China probably poses the largest infringement risk. Europe is also up there. They are very expensive as well, probably the most expensive international jurisdiction to enter with patents. For those of you who don't know, he asked about PCT application. It's an international application that sort of gives you the ability to go into every single country that signs the PCT treaty. A good way to extend out your runway on intellectual property by 18 months, as well as a very efficient way to sort of get worldwide intellectual property coverage. Yeah, China's number one. Europe is probably in the top 5. Some of the other Southeast Asian countries are getting up there, but they don't have the advanced manufacturing that China does. You know, I can see places like India or some of the other Southeast Asian countries sort of developing that over the next 10 years, which is within the life of your patent. But at the moment, you know, the biggest threat is.
A quick follow-up then is China, is it becoming more enforceable, or is it still?
Hard question. Yes, it is becoming more enforceable, but that answer also is based on data from before we got a new president who is sort of upturning the apple cart. A lot of times you will see China use intellectual property as sort of a cudgel, sort of, you know, advance their technology companies at the cost of us. You know, that's the classic Chinese play. So, is it getting better? Yes. Could it get worse? Certainly.
Question.
I'm curious because you brought this up earlier. In what situations, in your experience, would a party actually give up rights to joint ownership to jointly developed IP?
Out there facing a lawsuit?
Like an agreement that I've not developed yet, and there's potential to develop it, like in either an MTA, an NDA, and things like that, a research agreement.
Why would they give it up? I don't know. You know, maybe they just don't want to be a part of it. Maybe there are other things going on. Maybe that they lied, you know, when they're obtaining the intellectual property and they're trying to get away from the issue. It could honestly be 1.5 million reasons. Could you be more specific, maybe?
Oh, I was just curious because you brought up before, like, pushing back against it, and it seems like pretty, like, standard from what I've seen. Is there any situation where there's a mix of two parties where one would actually give up the rights to joint ownership?
Yes. Independent contractors. So if you have an NDA with an independent contractor, they almost always want your business more than they want the intellectual property. Just need to make sure that you are papering over their rights, that they're your rights instead.
I have one last question for you. Are you licensed in California?
I am not, but the PTO is federal. I can do patent law, trademark law from anywhere in the country.
Okay.
We also have a San Diego office, and I love San Diego, much like everyone from Arizona. So if you guys have needs in California, we have hundreds of California licensed attorneys.
They're located right along the 56 there.
Right next to Torrey Pines.
Hundreds of attorneys. We just like you.
Take a picture.
Can I distribute your deck?
Of course.
Okay. Awesome.
I will
Thank
be
you,
around
Tony.
afterwards
I knew
if
there
you
were more
guys-
conversations coming from you.
Thank you.
We have completely changed to get around a little bit, but we have our CEO hot seat session. And so Danielle would like us to help her perfect her positioning. She's got eligibility for grants in sought after. She's been on a plane to go to the Mayo Clinic. She wants to get her story straight. So she doesn't have a deck to show us, but she wants some advice about what she's facing and get your input on how to help her position things. So I'm going to give her a microphone because she's very soft-spoken, otherwise you won't hear her. But get it away.
Thank you. So, so when John said that there was a slot open for the CEO hot seat, this being my first meeting, I thought that meant that there would be multiple slots, that I would be one of them. So I'm sorry for breaking from the typical mold of what you guys are doing, and I appreciate your willingness to get creative with me on this. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the situation here is that we have basically reached a point right now where we've got a little over 6 months of our runway, which means I've got a fundraising tour in the next couple of quarters, and I'm putting together my pitch deck. I've got this opportunity to present a very quick 5-minute presentation at the Mayo Clinic in the next couple of days. And then I've also been selected as a finalist for SoftBank's Open Opportunity Fund pitch competition, which is like a 3-minute, much more general pitch competition. So the issue here is that our software is a very broadly applicable software. We can do a lot with it. Ralph showed you a couple of screenshots. One of the things that we do is that we can make a computational resources like the GPUs that they have reserved, specifically from Oracle in this case, available to a community of their members. So that's kind of like the white label offering, right? We can make compute more easily accessible for some kind of community. They can share code, they can share data, they can share compute resources. Value prop number 1. Value prop number 2 is much more straightforward for therapeutics companies. This is the case where we've got just a very big kind of choose your own adventure thing. We can deploy our software within your existing cloud, or we can give you access to AWS. We pass through cloud compute. So our value does not come from upcharging on compute like a lot of these other kind of data platform softwares that you might have seen. The Latches, the CodeOceans, the Sakeras that try to get you on their cloud. The offering here is that we make it a lot easier for your computational researchers to focus on the computational research, to be able to come in and immediately focus on the analysis level code. We take care of the compute provisioning, your version control, your data management, a lot of the plumbing and underlying software engineering tasks. So that's kind of the offering for therapeutics companies, often diagnostics companies as well. And then in the case of somebody like CROs or contractors, because we have the opportunity to make code, data assets, and also just the use of custom code much easier to use. We can take your scripts and turn them into just a point-and-click interface, make it very easy for anybody to run these things. It's a nice offering for contractors, for people who have the the skills to develop an asset, and other people need to be able to use that asset. So I've got several different ways that I can present my software. We have presented it in these several different ways to different audiences. As you guys all know, being a lean team, being the CEO, you're doing a lot of sales and pitching as well as operations and management of your team. Yeah, and sometimes the journey of having very consistent messaging, very consistent positioning and marketing materials is something that has more or less of your attention at any given time. So I'm going out and I'm doing my pitch tour, and I would really just love to hear your guys' opinions on what comes to mind, if you understand what I am saying at all, because it's very abstract, yeah, especially without visual aids, but yeah.
So I think the first question I have for you is audience. Are you talking to customers or investors? Very different conversation.
There's usually a mix in a lot of these audiences, which is difficult. So I would like to focus, I really don't know where to focus sometimes. So for Mayo, I think I would like to focus on potential partners and potential users, because oftentimes if you're giving that message, the investors in the audience will, you know, they'll do the role playing, they'll understand that that's the message that you're trying to give, and then they'll kind of understand the other side of things. But, yeah.
So when you're meeting with Mayo, who's in the room?
It's going to be a lot of people from Mayo. It's also going to be people who are also hoping to partner with people at Mayo as well as their existing collaborators.
So are you looking for them to write a check to you for hours worked, or are you looking for them to write a check for you or invest and build the next generation?
Yeah, so what we would really love is basically a new development partner, but even just a client partnership would be fantastic there, obviously. And the way that we generally do these agreements is on the order of about like a 6 to 12 month licensing agreement to be able to use the software. Longer is always possible too. People usually will end that initial agreement at 12 months.
When you're dealing with investors, what kind of picture are you painting? Short term, middle, long term? What do those look like, and what's the tech doing at each of those milestones?
Yeah, that's also something that I'm like soul searching and trying to figure out about, because it depends a lot on what market niche we hit that initial product market fit with. So we've been focusing a lot on therapeutics and diagnostics companies, in part because that is who I tend to run into, and especially early stage companies, because I relate to people starting early stage companies. Unfortunately, something that has started happening, and this kind of has repeated a pattern of what happened initially, because we developed this initially with academia in mind, and we got a handful of initial academic customers. But you all probably immediately know out of intuition that they are not going to support a business, and definitely not going to, you know, pay enough to have VC-backed growth. So we learned a lot from academia, transitioned our market into industry. We have a handful of early stage industry partners, but there's a lot of risk there. One is that they're always searching for money. Two is that they put us in the box of these pipeline companies instead of viewing us as a partner like we'd like to be, that can help them build their pipeline and build their internal data platform. And three, they go out of business. So our biggest customer went out of business at the beginning of the year, and that was like a major blow. So we need to be focusing on working with larger companies as well. But then we're less familiar with their problems. It's harder to get in the door. I'm reaching, but I feel, I don't know, I'm particularly discouraged today. So.
You never be discouraged, you're a CEO. Years of discouragement, but that's not the question. So you're let's say you're going through audience? I wasn't here at the beginning, so I may have missed that, but who is your target audience? Is it a bioinformatician group, head of bioinformatics, or is it translational biologist?
Yeah, this has also been a difficult thing to identify because the computational researchers and bench scientists can be our users, but they are not buyer. They don't always, so there's several people that are involved in this. I've learned that this is called a complex sale, and it has indeed been complex. So we started working and talking a lot with computational researchers, and we started working and talking a lot with computational team leaders, kind of tech leads. And at some point last year, we started talking to C-suite and regular old leadership, and then, went off on a terrible adventure of developing features for them. We are now back focused on the use case and users that we want to work on, but figuring out how to communicate that value for the business to the business leaders. So now I think we are aiming for the right people, but the value proposition that you're communicating to each of these people is very different. And messaging that and figuring out how to do that consistently across several different company types and company sizes is just, where I've been learning. I've been learning how to do this over the last couple of years, and I'm hoping, and I do think that we are poised at this point. We have today just started working with a new sales contractor that also got a computational software startup on its feet with sales, and I'm hoping he can help us do the same. That's where we are right now.
Thank you, Nazneen, by the way. Thank you. Yes, questions over here.
Please go ahead.
Questions over here. Go ahead.
So you kind of laid out the three different, sounds like 3 different products and 3 different customers.
It's one product, but it can be, we can adapt it to different use cases.
Okay. So I guess where so far do you think you've had the most traction in terms of revenue and also pull from your customer base?
Yeah. In terms of revenue, it's probably been the accelerator and community-based one. This is our partnership with Aquilius. Weird conflict of interest right now, but just sitting in their space. But that has been really cool, and what I really like about that is that we've had the opportunity, and we have a continuing opportunity to really help build their community and support the sharing of assets there. But I did talk to a handful of other accelerators, and a lot of them are feeling the squeeze of the market right now too. And they're just trying to fill their spaces, and it's hard for a lot of them to be thinking about additional value that they can bring right now when they're kind of trying to stay afloat the same as everyone else is. Because they've got the early stage companies as their customers, which puts them in a very risky position.
So I'm trying to understand your product a little more. So it kind of reminds me of something Palantir does. So I know Palantir built out a bunch of kind of software solutions for government and military applications. So is your product kind of like that, and how is it different from that?
I mean, I don't know a lot about Palantir, but I have heard that comparison a lot. From my understanding, I think that Palantir's platform is something that their employees use to consult with their clients, rather than a direct platform that their clients use, is it?
Well, so one Palantir application that I'm very familiar with is they built out an entire web-based platform for RNA-seq analysis for the National Cancer Institute. And I gotta tell you, I as someone who was analyzing RNA-seq data, I didn't want to use it.
Okay.
But I know some people who were more bench scientists did want to use it because it was point and click, like you're talking about. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to see if that's sort of what you're your goal is, or is it?
So I think that I am running into that kind of thing, and I would love to hear more about why you don't like that solution, because I think I'm bumping into that with computational users a lot. We've made it so that you can literally write anything and turn it into something point and click. But it's been really hard to get out of the existing box of these other pipeline companies that are like, we have our pipelines, you can use them, rather than saying, we have this way for you to develop pipelines that you can then make accessible for others to use.
Yeah, we can talk more about that.
Yeah, I'm especially interested in hearing like knee-jerk, I hate this reactions, because I think that people are not telling us that because they're very polite, and I appreciate that, but it's also not letting me improve.
Right, right.
So,
Beth, you have a question? I'm sorry.
So I have 2 points to make. So listening to you talk, so I don't do what you do for a living. I make drugs, but I use a lot of technology. So I'm kind of interested in what you're doing and how I might be able to use what you're doing and either work with you or have you develop something that then my people can use. So my question though is, what's your vision? How do you see your company, and then explain different possibilities? So here's the technology, here's what you do. How's that different? How's that better and more convenient and get me where I need to go faster without having to hire, 5 data scientists at $500,000 pop?
Yeah, so that's exactly, that's exactly what we're aiming to prevent for you, is that experience of having to hire.
Right?
Yes.
So that's what you have. I don't even know what your technology is.
I know.
I vaguely, I have a vague idea.
It's a nuts thing for me to not bring you any visuals, to be honest.
Client, partner, consumer, however.
Yeah.
Those are the sorts of things I would want to know. And I think that some of that is very basic, whether you're pitching to investors or whether you're talking to potential customers and clients. So it's sort of like, here's what we have, here's what we see here's what we see from a visionary point of view that we can do, and then here's sort of how we want to work with people. And you've got different categories of people.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think you want to tantalize people, for lack of a better word, that they've really got to come and talk.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I'm not good at. Yeah, I haven't found the right way to say that.
Just make slides. Don't worry about whether you know what to put in there. Have a slide, what are you trying to show, write it.
So do we have some recommendations for her? Because I think we're discussing some ideas, but I think we're looking in this direction. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, I think I kind of get it. We're really in the same type of areas you guys are in. I just, I'm still, I think you need to maybe articulate, especially for, you're talking a 5 or 3 minute presentation, you're going to have to really articulate it in a very concise way. So you need that problem, your solution, what traction do you have, and what's your ask?
Yeah, and I've done it for each of those. The reason that I didn't want to come and bring one specific set is because it makes the whole thing feel very narrow, and
it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, we struggle, we're in the same kind of field, and we struggle with that too, and it's sometimes difficult to really encapsulate what you're doing in a way that's easy to communicate to people. But I think that's really important, and again, for those 3 or 5 minute pitches.
I know.
You're
going to pick one, and I'll do it, and it'll be fine.
Therapeutic, or therapeutics are kind of easier to pitch than the kind of stuff that we're doing. We have a disease, we have a treatment, and here's the plan, and it's very easy to.
That's only because we make
Not that
We've
it's
done a lot of work to make it digestible. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but that's what you have to do. You have to make it look easy. They don't care about the struggles.
Well, I kind of have a question, and then I have some insight, but I think I'm kind of struggling to understand exactly what your product does. And I think we kind of would actually probably be customers of this because we do AI/ML and very heavy computational biology. And I'm kind of in a weird position where I'm not a computational biologist, but I do understand it all. So I think my first question is, could you just explain a little bit more like what actually the product does, and then I'll have something else to say.
Yeah, so the basic user flow that you can have here is that you'll sign in, you've got projects that gives you access to certain files. If you are working on code, you can go to something called Workspaces, you hit start, provision all of the cloud resources that you need. You can adjust whether you need more CPUs, RAM, GPUs, etc. And you just hit open. And that immediately brings you to a development environment that's intuitive, the same one that you might use on your laptop, but it now has all of the power of the cloud compute behind it, as well as mounted file folders of all of the data that you might need from within your organization for that. So one, it integrates all of your compute and data resources into one space. You can go ahead and code the same way that you're used to. You've got access to the internet, you've got the command line, and once you're done and you need somebody else to use that, you have a feature that allows you to turn it into a point-and-click form for somebody that does not want to interact with the code. And then once people do run those tools, those point-and-click tools, we automatically keep track of everything that was put into them, all of the parameters that went in, all of the outputs that come out, whether those interact with other subsequent tools. We keep the whole map of your data history recorded there, and as well as all of the logs. So if something goes wrong, you can communicate easily with your computational researcher to say, hey, I tried to run this and this is what happened, and they can go through your logs, your inputs, and troubleshoot with you.
So is the difference between this versus like doing everything in AWS, like interface, cost, like what?
Interface for the most part. Okay. So it's ease of use. The point here is trying to be kind of like an easy button for infrastructure. Computational scientists spend a lot of time maintaining data and compute infrastructure and doing kind of like what I would think of as kind of plumbing tasks that take you out of the analysis level and bring you into the implementation level. And our goal is to keep you in the analysis level so that you can focus on the science and we can take care of the underlying infrastructure.
Okay. And then the thing I was going to say is that I think that having multiple customers and also multiple value props is good, but I think it confuses the story.
Yeah.
I think I would just pick one and go with it, and then you can always build off of that and talk about other, revenue streams and other customers you can go after. And I think in terms of what to pick, that's kind of like why I asked the question earlier, where you have the biggest pull and where you're getting the most revenue so far.
Yeah.
And so if you feel something that is kind of pulling you towards one, I would just go with it, and you can always change it later. But I would just go in with a conviction of what you're doing, and then it can always change later.
This is really interesting to me because we're running this like an issue processing session, where it's sort of like clarifying questions and then recommendations. So this is away from video. I see it really quickly.
Yeah, I got some more over here. A few more.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about that offline, yeah.
So you have an internal check. That person then says, here's a project that I really want to focus on. Let's do some proof of concept. We do that at no cost. It was a very small project. And then when you present it to the Mayo Clinic, they present the data and then mapped out what this could mean for other groups at the Mayo Clinic. But then it led to the contract, and I don't know where they are right now.
I appreciate the example.
I was going to just give a suggestion for, specifically pitching a startup to someone who's seen your fit before and thought it was great. I think, at least for my case, the thing that I thought held us best was the fact that we actually had a data scientist already.
Yeah.
I actually think your use case is the most convincing for really early startups that are just wet lab or people who don't know how to code at all. Because for us, the problem is like, it would be a huge time saver if like whenever Bob, for example, or Gio has a question about a data set, I don't have to go and look that up. That would take a lot of time. But also, my time is kind of free.
It's not core, yeah.
Right, yeah, it's not like that's going to revolutionize the business. Right. It might allow a business to go another year without even having to hire a data scientist at all. that's a much bigger cost savings. So maybe just a way to have that angle in mind is kind of maybe positioning yourself as sort of a temporary replacement that will then be able to interplay when they do eventually have to hire a data scientist. That transition will be much more smooth.
Thank you.
Logan? Actually, first I'm throwing Steph under the bus because he had a good idea, but he whispered it in my ear. And then I
So his question was, who are you talking to? And as you mentioned, for this type of person, the value proposition and this type of benefit. But this one is different. So maybe what you need is a presentation of the global different types of benefits for the different types of people on the user to the payer, to makers, and to payer. Okay. Thanks for the best.
if it's on one slide, it then ties everything together. So everybody sees, oh, they get that benefit, but that person gets that.
You're universally adding benefit to
Lisa?
With the moment that you need to go to the user, to have the champion user, but in the end.
And then I'm sure in your pitches it's come out, and I haven't been here, so but the general we do X to help you with Y is not super clear. What I think I understand is we provide a flexible interface to bring the power of of cloud infrastructure to your computational thing. But something somewhere in there is we do X to help you with Y has to be very clear in those short presentations.
Yeah, my issue there is I've come up with a lot of we do X to help you with Y's, and when you we need to pick one. Yeah, when we get too high level, they become really generic and not differentiated. And then when we get down to brass like to specific values to different people, will exclude themselves when it actually would be helpful to them. But I think that it's right. We just need to pick one and go with it. If it excludes some use cases.
There's a comment here. Hold on a second.
Money people are going to say by using your approach. I think that's the way we approach it. We're in the same boat. It's very complicated to try to explain, especially to high level people. So
Lisa, what do you think here?
So I just wanted to provide a tool that I use, and it's very obvious, but it works wonders, is my suggestion is do the exercise, speak your story into a Word document, AI, whatever you want. Take that story and then ask, say, I'm listening to the story and this is my role. How would I change my message? And it's amazing how it gives you that different perspective. So one story, writer's block is gone because you're speaking it to, don't write it, speak it, tell it as you would, and it will really help you understand how you need to do it. You don't have to have it generate your slides if you wanted to, but it's just to help somebody else be that audience for you.
Yeah.
I think building on that, you touched on this, who is your customer? I think you have to define because you're going to build a very different tool accordingly. If your customer is the startup who can't afford a bioinformatician, it's a tough market, but there might be value there. And you could potentially produce a story where we're going to get these companies hooked, and then we're still going to be there and integrated as they grow. And that's the growth for a VC. But I think that tool is going to be drastically different than a tool that you're pitching a company that has 20 bioinformaticians with a very well-established and probably rigid at that point pipeline and definition. So I think that probably you've got to figure out if that market is there in the early stage startups, and if so, commit to it.
Maria?
I'm kind of going to repeat, but summarize what some of the people said. You need persona.
Yeah.
Imagine 3 people from completely different types of organizations, give them names, and show how they're really struggling with a little sense of humor with something. And then you have your sample, right? So, of course, maybe you can do more than these 3, but if these 3 are all different and personal enough, a lot of others can relate. Okay, I'm a little bit similar to okay, I'm a little bit similar to Beth, you know? And then it also becomes more clear to us, or not from the field, to understand.
Thank you so much. I'm feeling lots of That's really good.
So, I remembered what one of the problems I had with Palantir was. So they're a great company, so I'm not throwing them under the bus, but their solution was slow and clunky.
Yeah.
So my question to you is it fast? So that's huge, I think. I think if you get up there and you say, this is fast, people hate, like when it comes to this kind of stuff, people hate slow. They hate slowness, and this is fast. That's a huge value proposition.
So I was gonna say, so kind of, I think what you said is kind of hitting the nail on the head, but I think what I'm hearing more is that less about the storytelling, but that you guys might actually need to figure out who your beachhead customer is that you need to go after. Yeah. And I think, so after hearing what it actually does, I do honestly think like my software engineers and my data scientists wouldn't really want to switch from AWS to using something like that. But I would love something like that because I don't know how to write a line of code, and I would love to point and click and run a sample and see results from a sample because I don't know how to use any of that stuff. And if it's that easy and it's really easy to build that, that's huge, and I would absolutely pay for that. But we ended up actually building something like that in house so that because I'm very heavy in the R&D, but I don't know how to code, and I don't have time to learn how to do it. And so that would be a huge thing, but that's a completely different like value prop. That's a completely different sales pitch and investor story from what you were originally saying. Yeah. And so I think you might need to like take some time to figure out like what actually, who are you selling to and what, like why is that?
I think I haven't spent enough time and focus in any single story is probably the problem because I have written and told several stories that get very specific to several different audiences, and that's part of my frustration. I feel like I don't have one, because then when I go to make it one, I'm saying words that mean nothing at that point. So I think just focusing on those use cases and
You've
I
had
just
a
don't
lot
know
of
how much
suggestions.
troubleshooting time I have is part of the problem.
You have a lot of suggestions here. What do you want to take away from this? A lot of people weigh in on the personas. We focus on one. We simplify using a single story and visualize different audiences, different basic marketing strategies. What do you think makes sense for you to go forward right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do just need to pick a single use case, at least in the short term again. The thing is, it's got to have appeal to people that I am pitching to who are within the industry, people that I'm pitching to that are maybe more maybe SaaS than biotech. There's got to be long-term vision and growth potential, and it has to be differentiated. So, I mean, there's a lot to put
What did
together.
you think about Angeli's suggestion about Mayo?
I'm already lost. To find a champion and do a pilot. Yeah, I mean, that's always a goal.
Yeah.
But we need to.
And that's coming up in like 3 days.
It's
right?
coming up in 3 days. It's 5 minutes. Yeah, it's a 5-minute presentation. I've put them I've several, that I could give at any point. I think I need to figure out what audience I'm going to seek.
It's mostly going to be the VCs. I know this group pretty well. It's going to be mostly the VCs. There'll be like a handful of VCs, and then, like you said, some general people that are interested. But I think that's going to be your prime. So it's going to have to be pretty high level, in terms of.
It will.
They're not going to
5-minute presentation for sure.
They just want to care about how much money will the company say that they use your product, and what's the return on that.
So you're 100% right. If you have a mentality, you need to find money. How are you making money? That means you're looking for product market fit. And that's always a challenge for startups. Always. Even if you're a therapeutic company, going after much harder right things, right? Just always you have product market fit.
Yeah.
So finding out what they need, you have to look at all your different options and decide which one you focus on first.
everywhere, yeah.
Like pharma, if I'm going to pharma, I try to find a champion. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll go not just to talk to people, but also to find a champion.
We're going to wrap this up. Danielle, did you get value out of this?
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I wanted to take a quick second before we go to our last section, and I wanted to acknowledge Chelsea. And yeah, yes, you.
Snuck in.
What's up, everybody? Hi, guys.
So I'd like for you to stand up just for a second to tell us a little bit about you, what you're up to. And here you go.
Oh, who am I?
Who am I? Hi, everybody. Sorry to sneak in the background. Chelsea Hewitt. I currently lead our JLabs incubator in San Diego and also our regional sourcing. And I see a lot of familiar faces, so it's wonderful to see the overlap here. It was really interesting to hear kind of the dialogue around how best to engage. If I could just build, I would say, like business model canvas process, just that would be very helpful for you to articulate a customer, investor, all that stuff. I'm sure you've done it already, but it sounds like some work there. And yeah, really just, that's it. What do you,
that was it.
I'm a Aquarius, and
Here.
People in the world.
I also wanted to acknowledge Pilgrim Jackson, who is an alumni of CO 360. And he's kind of in the news. I'm going to let it tell you a little bit about what he's up to.
Wow. No. I'm shy. If it knows. Thank you. And CO Circle was great and continues to be, I'm sure. And it's good to be back and see everybody here. I guess you're referring to, we acquired another small proteomics company. Yep, so we're growing, adding to the team, adding to the technologies that we offer. And even more important, which isn't in the news yet, so you're hearing it here first. We got clinical proof of concept for our technology and predicting. It's only 7 patients, but 100% accuracy in predicting response.
So a year ago, scraping for dollars, now acquiring companies and
Oh, we're still scraping for dollars. We're always scraping for dollars. If anybody has any, watch your wallets on the way out.
Tell us a little bit about your journey here. I mean, seriously, you have been like very brave about it.
I'm a Gemini. Here. Okay, I think I know most of the people here, so they probably know, but I'm a biophysicist by training. Celgene for 13 years, drug discovery and development. Left at the awesome time of 2020 to start a company. And so we've been doing it for 5 years, and definitely scraping and scrounging between seed revenue, which was easy back then. We actually turned off the faucet. Never, ever turn off the faucet. Do not. If there's ever an open faucet of money, don't turn it off. So we turned off the faucet, and then we do have revenue. So, yeah, so that's kept us alive. So VCs early on said, definitely do not split, do not divide your company into revenue generating and therapeutic ideas and things like that, because they're completely different business models. And I agree, and it's super complicated and annoying, and you end up telling 15 different stories. But if we hadn't done that, we definitely would not be alive. So, you know, do what you have to do. I think that covers it. And hopefully from here we grow and have the money to buy software and things like that.
Awesome. Good job.
Nice job. So
good therapy right there.
It's nice to be saying good things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go to the next section, because first of all, we apologize we didn't have food here. You know,
Blame it on me.
Huh?
Blame it on me.
All right.
Blame it on me. I'm sorry.
We just had 2 travel schedules changed, and all of a sudden we had to find a new home and a different time. Deloitte was full. So that's where we landed here. So I apologize. We would have that. But I wanted to also just tell you, we did a survey, and I had like 12 responses. And I'll go into it in a little detail here, but I'm asking you as CEOs, what are your barriers to traction right now? What are the big things that are coming up that are causing you to feel that you're not going as fast or as far as you'd like to go? So here's all the data, and they kind of came out in circles here. Funding is obviously a big one, and so the way you read this is blue, everything's fine, no problem, no issue. Red, it's kind of challenging, and orange, that's where it's the most challenging. But I'm seeing definite pockets here, and I wanted to go through that. Clinical trial design, fundraising, team, and differentiation. So let's go in a little deeper here. So of our study results here, we found people are doing fine with their science. We feel like it's not a question of it being unproven. The core science seems like it's innovative. The reproducibility probably is too early stage or later stage for you guys. But clinical trial design had some red, and I wanted to address that. Effective or poorly designed clinical trials can lead to delays, increased costs, and ultimately failure to secure regulatory approval. How many of you are experiencing this? Or a few that they work. Yeah? Yeah. So here's the point. We need to come up with, we need to address the issues that you guys have. So in future meetings, this will help fuel us. Next one was, well, a lot of orange there. All about fundraising. Heavy reliance on grants. That seems to be changing a little bit. That's the first one. It seems like it's moving more towards red, but there's enough orange there. Underestimating the time and resources needed for drug development, leading to premature funding shortages. That seems to be a bigger issue than struggle to secure necessary capital. So you really want to help you address this. We've got office hours. We've got access to all kinds of investors. We have pitch contests. We have lists of and data of which investors are investing in what project and what checks they're writing. You've got to really focus on this, and I think in this time, this stage, completely, we are, we need to put some more energy. It's not just about grant. Next thing we saw was, these are red, so these were just challenging, not horribly challenging. But there's some team expertise that's missing, the commercial expertise and support to navigate the landscape effectively. So when we're hearing that teams are feeling that there isn't enough expertise on their team, that's guest speakers. That's folks that we can help hook you up with. We need to talk a little bit about that. Regulatory, navigating this regulatory FDA pathway, that's always going to be a challenge. My focus on this slide is theme. This one was interesting. Again, not a lot of orange, but challenges. And if you look at number 3, differentiation and a highly competitive, numerous startups vying for attention from investors and partners, making it difficult to stand out. That's what you're talking about. These indicate areas that we could offer help. This again comes back to practicing your value proposition, finding your value proposition, making sure that you can articulate that in a pitch, elevator pitch, maybe in your marketing materials, maybe in the way you're presenting. This differentiation maybe needs some more information. What's actually out there, and what are the views? Then you heard some other challenges that you're getting faced with. I'm looking for names. I'm looking for access to private investors and family offices. We can help there. And how do I efficiently manage my limited remaining runway to reach an inflection point? So let's reverse engineer that and find out what the inflection points are so we get there. There's interest, but there is a hesitancy to invest. So that's very common today. How do we break through those objections? How do we get it so that yours rises to the top, that check it's possible? And then finding trustworthy partner service providers. Trustworthy partners and service providers. I hope there's not a lot of scammers out there. On the other side of it, getting the right team support is a big deal. And dealing with deal size, deal cycle length, pain tolerance, and target market. Those are all positioning questions. So I bring you this data and I ask, for a little discussion here. How would you like to proceed with this? We've got all kinds of areas where we can work on. We're at our 7th meeting. We have 5 more meetings to go. What's the best use of our time? What would help you? So if I go backwards, and let's just take a look at fundraising. Yep.
Go forward to regarding the hesitant days we have. That is our personal experience. I was curious to hear what was the feedback, what were the hesitants on?
This came in as a comment on the survey, so just one person who said.
So people are interested in getting initial meetings, CBA, diligent, etc. But I've heard from a couple ladies that people are reticent to invest in Europe. They're seeing it as very risky. There's failure. But of course, my report that is no failures in oncology, of course, but that's the sentiment. And then how do you those are not the people who are going to invest. And so I think that that's somebody's opinion. I don't think I'm going to do anything to change it. And so that's probably the line of pharma. And they're very interested. And what they want to see is non-GLP tox. So I know what I need to do. And I know that there will be either partners or licensing at the end of that. Or funding from their venture arm to get to IND. But, so grants are fine, whether in phase 2, but that's incredibly slow.
Make the same comment as well.
Yep.
So I make the same comment as that's on this one. And so I'm moving oncology, so we just started our same issue. So the common feedback from VC is we would like to reach certain milestone. And finally understand their milestone means we got to reach the IND.
Near IND filing, right? So you got this, hey, when you reach that and your phase 1, maybe in 1 year, they get the readout, they look for quick exit. They are not really looking for IPO nowadays. They're looking for acquisition deals, right? So through their lens of their investment, I kind of understand better, right? So the way I deal with this is, if they are really interested, keep on follow up with them, right? And then second is to leverage the positive feedback from the potential future strategic partner, meaning the big or medium-sized pharma. They do a lot of positive feedback for us. We also offer their timeline of potential deal is like this, right? 2 years that, then can we find a commonality, meaning, hey, I'm already starting my CMC. It's probably a good time, right, to really leverage the current market situation to get a good valuation. So that seems to generate some serious interest. We have want to due diligence ongoing. Overall, it's indeed a very difficult time.
Any other questions about that? Fundraising. Struggle to secure necessary capital, especially in a competitive market or during economic downturns. We've done a lot of discussion about that in every meeting that we've been in. We've talked about how to diversify strategies. We've talked about figuring out how to move away from VCs and use. But this still seems to be a huge problem. However, I am seeing amongst the group that there are some bright spots and funding activities. How do we get more of them? It seems like this becomes a topic that we should So, David, what should we bring in for this? We bring in more VCs to talk to them just to give some advice?
I don't know if bring in VCs. I would bring in some family offices. I would bring in some angel investors, maybe CVCs, because CVCs as alternative investors are increasing. So I think that's an important set class to bring in. I think this is my bias. I think VCs is a broken system. I'm probably not a very I'm probably swimming uphill. Probably not very favorite by saying that, but I think VC is it's broken. By bringing VC as an alternative system and just some other mindsets, not grant people. I think you got to know that system well. I think that's what we got to bring in. Yes. Hi.
Hi. A suggestion, I don't know if it's feasible or not, but some thought. Maybe instead of one of the each contest, is it possible for us to organize our own kind of partnering nights, like speed dating, like we do at conference? Thinking together, people, and maybe it can be possible to invite some family offices that are interested to invest right now in the companies like us and give us each 3 minutes.
So speed dating, but with active investors. Yeah, we could do something like that. It can certainly work with the mind trust of like Chelsea, who can help me. No, I'm just you know some people. It's like I do. I'm not to help put that together. One of the things I'd like you guys to do.
There's an investor day. BioLabs is hosting an investor day.
Yeah.
So you can apply for it. But
Yeah. One of the things I want you guys all to do, what I see a lot of you guys do it, and when you're meeting with investors, make sure when you're meeting with any investor, one of the first things you should be asking is, are you investing today? A lot of times, their mandate is to actually meet with entrepreneurs, but they're not investing. They're just kicking tires. Don't waste your fucking time. Don't waste your time. Ask him, do you have a fund? Are you investing today out of that fund? And if not, ask him. And if they're not, do you know of investors that I should be meeting with? Don't waste your time. Your time is expensive. So we can identify active investors. Like, I don't know if you know, for example, Joe Gallo. He's here at Seed Folio, I think it is, right? Gatto. I'm sorry. Not. He's fun. But he meets. But he's just trying to.
You referred to yesterday.
Hey, he's not writing checks. I just always like to interact with him, but he's not writing checks, right? I use him for other purposes, but it's pointless to meet with him to talk about new investments, right? You should always know that about investors. Don't waste your time. It's really important. Yes, sir.
I completely agree, David. I think you'd be very helpful to this group if you bring in angels and family offices as opposed to VCs. We all know how to find VCs. But one, but the one thing that would have been helpful and would probably still be helpful is some merge of ChatGPT and PitchBook, where you can just say, like, who are the real investors that are in my area that have money and write checks in this range? Because honestly, it winnows it way down, and then everybody throws it back out the window and goes and looks at everybody. But those are the ones that will invest in your company. And so that's another way to save time.
I think for the majority of you guys are in the seed angel Series A range, right? The majority are not in the institutional VC range, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
To go with Maria's idea, a few years ago, I had a very cool company with Scotch, and then Mike Crane was organizing a music box an evening where it was just like, companies are sitting around, and then the VCs who can invest were shopping around. We get some money out of this one night of the music box, drinking with people. But the work is really on bringing those family offices, etc., that can write the checks. And then the second work is to select companies that are worth investing in. To work on that.
Right. But I could certainly work with Biocom's Capital Development Committee, which actually I chair, and with like Chelsea and some other connectors within San Diego to put something like that together. That's helpful.
That would be great.
Which is more actionable, I think, than sitting around with some people that are just basically pontificating, talking about, well, this is what's going on in the market. There's a lot of money out there.
Yeah.
How many times have you go to that?
Yeah.
I'm panel speaking on one tomorrow night at UBS conference to listen to me talk about it. Don't go. You have to pay.
Do you have a question?
Yes. Hi.
I want to get my vote counted when David's done. I just want
I'm done.
throw in and say that Maria's suggestion was a really good one. And the theme that's bubbling up here, active investors. Not one-time VCs who are going to give you, a lot of questions and ask you why you said this versus that, if they're not even really currently writing checks.
Do they have an active fund?
That's cutting to the chase about what we can do to really add value.
Do they have an active fund? Or are they running an SPV? You know what an SPV is? I have two active SPVs going on right now. One in neurodegeneration, looking at a dual cytokine.
It's like crowdfunding type of thing, right?
Yeah, no. One is a $2 million SPV, special purpose vehicle. I'm going out to limited partners and raising money, putting in money into the SPV. I manage the limited partners. I'm the one on the cap table.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. So, yeah, crowdfunding in that, I in a different way.
I'm putting a lot of LPs together under my name.
Yeah, gotcha.
While I'm out raising a $100 million fund, it's a way of doing it. Go ahead. I can, and if you want to look into something like that, I can do it. I can tell you about that. Another active way of doing it. It's not crowdfunding. I don't think life science and crowdfunding works.
The other thing about a speed dating, and it doesn't have to be that, but the other upside to that is you don't have to go through these little contests where only a certain number of us get up in front. Everybody gets a chance.
And I heard that. That Nazneen has raked me over the coals left and right on that.
So we all
have bruises.
We all show up, and we all get our opportunity to speak to.
What do you
So David, there was another point here. Number 2 here.
Yeah.
Understanding the time and resources needed for drug development. Are we also clear that we have great use of funds and that we understand the asks that are appropriate?
I think there's two sides to that. One, maybe we need to do a better job understanding how much it's actually going to cost. And secondly, you can't go out to a generalist. You have to go out to a specialist. Generalists don't understand drug development. They don't understand the cost, the time that's necessary. You have to understand your investor. I had one of the reasons I was a little late, I was in there with a generalist investor from Wall Street, and we were talking about ALS for a client of mine, and they were thinking it was going to take 6 months. What the So WTF? This is a generalist investor. He's managing multi-billion dollars in Wall Street, and he's talking about, oh, it's going to take 6 months. I'm like, no clue. Just like Huntington's disease, just like Alzheimer's and you're dealing with just specialists who understands the market versus a generalist. They have no.
6 months to do what?
To take an oral drug to see an effect, they don't understand EMEA, they don't understand FDA and clinical trials and the endpoints of taking a functional endpoint, walking, listening, doing anything in those particular areas. So I think we, as specialists, as drug developers, even if you're doing anything in diagnostics, drug or in device development, we need to mention a better, like what is it going to take to develop?
To that end, you can bring in experts or bring into subgroups
Right.
of people who work in this area or that area. And not, I mean, drug development is not that.
Right.
Clinical trials. But, you know, then we can help develop.
So there's one point that it's two sides of the coin. We need to do a better job of coming up with more realistic asks and uses of funds, but then go out to the right investors. Look, I don't think generalists right now actually exist out there waiting for IPOs and M&As for them to come back into the market. They just don't exist. It's really a bunch of specialists who are true biotech investors. But at some point that will change, and you'll see the 2021 timeframe again of drunken sailors coming back in and spending money. The 2020, 2021 timeframe, it'll happen again. Good, right? And the valuations will go up. But literally, the 12:30 call I had was someone that you're just going to run into, and it's just like, wake the hell up. That doesn't exist, but they're willing to write checks into stuff like that. Crazy. You're going to run across those, especially in the family office space. Especially in the family office space. Family offices are somewhere around 18 to 20% of family offices invest into life sciences. Other 80%, it's real estate, right? You deal with it all day as a wealth manager. It's real estate. It's predictable cash flow. I can get 3x, 5x cash on cash return. God help you. And it's like a 2-year, 3-year time frame. I don't understand biotech or life science. So we can do that. Thank you. It's a great suggestion. It's 4 o'clock. Wrap it up. I'm going to do a Pilgrim Jackson. Yeah. At least I caught it.
What do you guys need? Is there anything pressing that you guys need?
Money.
All of it.
Energy.
I really love this group. I get a lot out of it. But the cadence, the frequency of how often we meet, I wish there was one more anywhere. It was more like the CEO circle talking, a model or something, you know, on the off. Like when there's a meeting 2 weeks later. If there's any interest in that, I would love to. At the same time, whether it's in the morning or afternoon, but not during the meeting, but 2 weeks off.
Suggestion. You know what I do with our Palo Alto group? Roger and I have done this. we started like a WeChat group. Now all the CEOs interact that way, and then every 2 weeks they get together like a troika. I'm sorry if I use that word, John. But, and so you guys interact. You guys the three of you guys will do a three-way. You'll go out for coffee, and I don't have to get involved with it. And then, so because basically shit happens in between the month, right? And I'm just getting flooded with like WeChat stuff, like, hey, I have an AI issue or something, and they're just starting to chat like crazy. If that's helpful, we can start that. I love it. I think it's so great.
Anybody need
Whatever, maybe it's some other type of platform.
You need some office hours, and you need to get a group of people together.
This is your tribe. Use your damn tribe, right? That's the point of it. Yes. Hi. Your eyes are looking at me like, woo. Okay, but seriously, this is your tribe. This is your advisory group. Utilize it.
We'll be with you.
Second. Un momento.
I want to hear some orders our problem with you. And so we have a conversation with some PC about the strategic question.
Okay, great suggestion though. Love it. Because stuff happens in between.
Is there any group? How many in the group are from Orange County? You. You and George. Anybody else? We have a team of two. Geographically, that might be good. There are people that.
Yeah.
Ocean.
In Dana Point.
Side, we can meet you.
O side. Mean San Clemente, whatever.
Anyway,
You at the Waldorf Astoria.
three are going to run my office.
All right, wrap it up.
All right, thoughts on today's meeting?
On a scale of 1 to 10, if you give
us an 8 or 9, good.
below 8, raise your hand.
Okay, good.
And I want to also thank you for the referral. You guys have been great at bringing new CEOs to our group. In fact, that's how we met Andrew.
Thank you, Danielle.
And as we are growing this group, we count on your referrals and happy, satisfied CEOs to
make sure that we can keep this thing going.
We'll see you next month. And I think we'll be in touch with you a lot sooner. I think we need to have some coffee in between, right? Okay. Thank you all. See you next month.
John, what's the John? Where do we go with this?
What's your name? Nice meeting you, Courtney. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been good. So you were here for a while?
Like 3 years.
Okay.
You walk your legs because you've been sitting all day. Sitting is the new smoking. So I highly encourage either one of two options. One is take a lap outside and get some fresh air and get some vitamin D. Option two, if you want to learn more about what we have in the back of the building, give me like 45 seconds and I can give you a tour of the facility just so you can see everything that we do.
Which I know is true.
Well, we can give you a self about no, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Part of the thing that I want to say about right now is that
I'm running up yesterday.
So it feels really weird to me
Yeah, there was something there.
So on Monday, he mentioned it. And we definitely need to think about it and put it together.
Usually they're focused on the chemistry of the technology, developing data, developing informative for their customers. And they go out and get that method and all of a sudden
Oh yeah, this is a ton of data. Now we're going to realize they collect a ton of data. They just don't they that's what makes it. It's like they're collecting all this data with the notion of well, it's manipulated and they save it all. So that's kind of important. So
and there, that makes more sense. So that has to work with us because
Anybody want to go on the floor? Hang on. We're walking. She knows what I'm talking about.
It's every day, it's funny time. We're walking, stop it.
We're walking.
Hey, where's Dave is Kevin time and Bonnie time is like we're walking, and then like the vice president's like, the vice president's next, and everybody, they're like,
right now, unfortunately, going to the right now we're trouble becomes like
yes, exactly. It's supporting her in
the fridge.
I mean, it's so hard to use. I think that once you learn how to use it, you don't want to use another platform. I mean, seriously, I think
Can I drop that off?
I used to.
I'm just saying, give us
it's so much easier.
I saw her speak at VMware.
run it on they run out of
yes, somebody.
But we did get a lot of work. It was a ton of work to get connected with.
The trouble you're going to have is for people up like me.
Yeah, there was a one test, and I
and posting it all on that's my
Hey.
Because within each one.
people don't understand all those sorts of yeah, I was going to say
We do not get to when I do it, if I show somebody they go, oh, you went I'm doing proteomics, so this is a no.
We have the same. We're doing sports betting. That's what you would like to do. But you're right, we get pigeonholed into like, oh, okay, well, you guys, what do you do? I guess we do all make sense.
Like we are front, we're like data type language.
I say that constantly, but it doesn't really seem
it gets so general that it doesn't need to be.
And then you get back.
Hi, I'm Marissa Halcom. Nice to meet you. Now we want to make sure that I introduce you.
Hey, thanks so much for sitting. I thought you had forgotten about me. I did. Well, I kind of forgot. Such an end to John. I still need to get back with Jen. I'm sure. Friday. John. And so Jeff took this job.
She lives in Tennessee.
So we've become pals.
Yeah. It certainly happens a lot these days. I didn't know you were going to be here. I just talked to her like 15 minutes ago. And where are you now?
I'm here in San Diego.
Still at Burnside?
No, so I'm at a company called Platform Science.
Yes. Hi. Completely different. How do you like it? Yeah. Tech is a different culture, isn't it? Just email it to her.
And the company that I'm with,
Why you know I'm like gigantic.
Interesting. That explains what that's
they get sound and you
looking
can
for it all the time. Oh, you said
message you.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. So they're really
You know that? Okay.
Right now, I've been signed off on.
I've I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'll go over that. I called here late at night, like sleep. I know this is all going to get
Everything that is very nicely taken out. I've been talking about
and I'll need yours. They are. Thanks so much. You've been really helpful.
Get up there.
Yes. Yeah, we're really excited. I think we're almost there. Good to see you. There's no view out.
Thanks, man. See ya. Yeah, it's ready.
Many positions cut, or was it really?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's.
Nice to meet you.
This is everything. Seminars. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I just wasn't sure. One's PowerPoint, one's PDF, so I just wanted you to have whatever you choose.
So what area of law are you?
All the law. The law job.
Yeah. Actually,
Karen loved us.
Aww.
Linda loved us.
Good, how are you? Just letting your mom know that I have her jacket. I'll bring with her.
I had a specific question for you. Oh God. What do you know about multiple sclerosis?
And really, as the general counsel, one of the biggest area is always very time-consuming was labor law. Or state labor law is
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to work closely with I had any preconceived one way or the other, but I just realized, okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a 300-person company, and a very dynamic, hard-hitting, a lot of egos, a lot of personalities, a lot of brain power, and it became very evident to me that you want to partner with HR, you want to work closely with them, have them be your ears, because it's inevitably things are going to red flags on the people's side, and then how to stay ahead of that. And it was a very difficult experience.
I can wax philosophically about that.
I'm wondering how many.
If I could go back 20 years, I would have gone into law and
in public law. Okay. Employment law. Yeah. It's everything.
Testing.
No, I think it was that 85% of the issues that pop up really makes the endless.
Yeah, she's giving you a mic. Peligroso.
It is rare that anyone gets a lawyer in life.
Be afraid. HR and a lawyer just got a microphone. It's like the beginning of a joke. I don't have a joke.
Hey everyone, there's tacos back there, so help yourself, and then we'll start.
See, we're trying to make you like us early.
In about 10 minutes or so. So grab some, and there's some drinks and stuff back there too.
Get a taco. Oh my god. Right? I have to do that.
Okay. So I can use a little bit of that for my notes. And then you're.
Oh no, I went to state.
For whatever reason, so no, okay, so you're all coming. Well, I don't think the farm is under the rest of
I know where you're going. I grew up in South Colorado, kid, I was like every freaking person to three. I was like, I'm gonna go see you go there.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, What do you learn?
Right, but it's unrealistic.
So when they leave, oh, got it. No, I thought you were. And so they have a house. Life is hard. Great fundraising. I don't mind that, but
Thank you for posting last night on LinkedIn. Yes, because that's how I well, last night when I was like a register, I'm like, I hope there's still capacity. Sometimes there's
yeah, no, that's right, that's correct. But I'm trying to remember last year, I might have had to wait this long to hear from them.
Bernard County should come from Bernard County. I'm going to send a message to Bernard County.
But it did happen, I think, last year. I don't know if it was a month, 2 months, but it was a while. Okay.
I'm going to stay here.
Are you gonna stay? I'm gonna get that first question if you want to.
Are you here for a few days, Sam? Today?
Our favorite, the llama.
Oh, love the llama.
It's easy. You can like add a table, take people away. Like it's a good spot.
It's a great spot. I took the team there actually for a dinner, and they were like, "This place is amazing."
It's a fun thing. Like you can just kind of like stretch it.
Yeah, ETC, yeah. And they have ample parking. Because San Diego, parking. That's how when somebody invites me out, I'm like, is there parking?
Oh, yes, a lot of parking.
Yeah. But if you go to season, they'll validate your parking. Yeah.
It's just very easy.
And what you guys did you say?
Last question too?
Okay, so you're here.
We actually
I got to where it is. And then we get weird on client. So we come with that.
I was one of the weirdo clients.
She got it. But nobody calls us when they're like, hey, it's like my team. It's like, hey, guess what? Don't tell anybody sugar today. Thanks for being here. Like, those are all the We get the like, someone's ninth grandma died, and they've taken 9 times their amount of PTO to go and log in. Can we fire them? And I'm like, oh.
It'll be fun to so the audience will
Audience here is a mixed traffic.
Getting there was rough.
Not cute. If we left at 3 from UTC, from Jose Uber, it was like 40 minutes.
Or there's probably people stuck in traffic.
Oh, yeah, to be I have thought you were in the fancy, the event where we did that outline upstairs, the fancy event. No, it was like the second or third story, and it was like outdoor. I thought that
You guys, definitely grab a beverage. It's HR topic. Adult beverage recommended. Adult beverages and tacos, if we're going to talk about HR and law. Not starting. Don't taco panic.
So
Red shoes, we match. I love it.
started to do work on what's on the roadmap with the big bill.
I heard that story. No politics. There's nothing I mean,
And that's what I've been.
our slides are drawn. Right?
Yeah, it does. It looks like the slides have already started. Thinking that sort of feels like HR. It's a good representation.
cautious about
No, that makes sense, right? Because we've been really living in the moment.
Lucy Lawless, all the way.
Is it Xena? Xena, the warrior princess? All right.
No idea?
How long are you going to be here?
We run out of tacos. 7, maybe? Do you have to run out and come back? Is that the right answer? Yeah. And then tomorrow we have a luncheon with a bunch of law dogs. You travel with your lawyer, you invite other lawyers. Be the state school kid at the table. It'll be awesome.
Great speakers.
For those of you that are here early, I did work at Theranos for a year. If anybody wants to toss out questions, we can certainly open with that.
Wow.
And I worked there before there was a website, so it wasn't my fault. And I worked there a year to the day.
So you have a lot of skeletons in your...
I do know where some skeletons are buried, yes. They're all wearing black turtlenecks.
Hi. Hello.
I was just warming up the crowd for you.
This is a very small group. I don't know whether we need to use
I love
a
the mic.
microphone.
I am not giving
Lawyers
up the mic.
are not usually given microphones.
My 8-year-old
so
self could not be happier.
Okay.
Like all I need is like unicorn hair and like leg warmers, and I am in.
It's great to see you guys.
Yeah, we're glad you're here.
For being here. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let Sammy run this.
Wrong.
But one of the things that we run into so frequently at Dental is working with companies
any different conditions, startups, medium, older age companies, inevitably the HR culture is something that rears its ugly head.
It's never a problem until it's a really big problem.
Right. And as somebody who's been primarily in the startup side of organizations, what I have learned, and you usually learn by your mistakes, is how important it is to, especially in the early stages of an organization, is not seeing important steps you need to take. And that's, as Sammy has alluded to, is what comes back to haunt you. And so we thought we would make this very much a kind of discussion sort of meeting, but start off at least with some topics that we see are probably can be hot buttons for companies at any stage. But if you address them early in an organization's life, the problems are very much muted, or you know how to handle them and resolve them. And I'm saying this from experience and from mistakes that I've made.